right, everybody. Welcome to this week's weekly software workshop. We're going to give some of our attendees about a minute or two here to go ahead and get signed in, logged in. So just give us a minute or two here, and we will go ahead and get started with the day's information. All right, everybody. So the attendee list has slowed down. For those of you who have not been to a weekly software workshop, just to let you know, these are super informal. We do, even though it's a webinar, and typically we have the attendees muted, we will go ahead and let it be so you guys can unmute yourselves and go ahead and talk when you have questions. So feel free to unmute yourself, ask any question you would like as we're going, and please don't, hesitate to interrupt me as I'm going. If you've got a question about what we're going over today or something else in the software, please stop me and ask the question, because I'd rather you ask it when right away, rather than unfortunately forget what your question was and then we don't get that question answered. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Today's information is a big topic as far as eRoute is concerned. One of our new features is setting your driver's accessibility to that eRoute. We've had a lot of requests for this particular setting, so we want to make sure we go over where that is, how to adjust it, and in what situations you might want to use those different accessibility settings. So we're going to go over that today and any other questions we have about the rest of the software. And then coming up the next couple of weeks or so here, next week we're going to do a monthly recap. So for those of you who have VCs that couldn't make it this week, or the last couple of weeks, I should say, we are going to do a monthly recap where we go quickly through the last couple of things we've gone through this month. So using those WSWs, updating the drivers in the system, and setting this accessibility that we're going to go over today. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to go over that WSW system. We're going to go over managing your safety programs, making sure that everybody's up to date on those safety programs, especially here at the beginning of the year. Start off on the right foot with that. And then we're going to go over entering those maintenance records and getting those preventative maintenance records and those MMRs out of our system. So that's kind of a little bit of a view into what we're going to go over the next month or so. And this is my contact info. So if you have questions about something while you're in the software, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. We are going to go ahead and get in the boss. I went ahead and logged in. So for those of you who, I think everybody that's here has seen the login screen, so I'm not going to go over that. But once you get into the boss system, there are two different menus. For those of you who are not aware, there is the main menu here down the left-hand side, but then there's also this sub menu under your name as well. So everything that is like tools that you can use throughout the system are in here. You're more of your settings and your company information as far as like your subscriptions. Like if you go into account details real quick, I'll show you. This is where you can update your MyGroundBiz credentials. You get that pesky email from us that says, hey, your MyGroundBiz credentials are expired. Super easy to get in here, manage that. And then your subscriptions are in here as well for us. The one that is here that kind of gets overlooked a lot are these company settings. So in here, it'll default to this main profile. And what it does is it gives you the ability to put in your profile information. Your email settings are in here. So all of those emails that you get from us, you have the ability to determine who gets those emails, and they're set in here. But then when we go to preferences, this is something that's new in this system that did not exist in our old eTruck tools, is what we used to call it, system. Um, there's a couple of them in here that don't exist yet. So for instance, the make it mandatory for drivers to be safety compliant and verifying their time logs. Those do not exist yet. They're here as placeholders. So for those of you who are here today, you can probably assume that these are going to be things that are going to be coming here in the next couple of months. But we put them in here as placeholders so that way, one, you guys know that they're going to be there, and two, that it's already in here ready to go when those features are available in the driver app. The new one is eRoute configuration. And as I have said before, anytime you see a little information icon, you can click on that. It'll give you some information here. At this point, these default to being off. And the reason for that is the way that eRoute was configured before was your driver got into the driver app, they chose the CSA, and then they choose their work area. They could choose from a list of work areas. So there was no like segregation as far as this is their default route, this is the route that they have to use, they can't see anybody else's. We did that so that way you guys as BCs and owners didn't have to go into our system and reassign a route to somebody on the fly. A driver could, if halfway through the day they have to leave and one of the drivers has to leave and somebody has to go take their place and help them, they could go into their driver app, switch the work area, and be on their merry way. And because our system is off of the FedEx API, your drivers don't have to complete a stop in our app. They don't have to go in and click complete stop and then move on to the next one. When they click refresh in there, anytime they've scanned a package and on their scanner and marked it as delivered, it's going to update the API, and then when they refresh their app on their device, whether it's a phone or a tablet, it's going to automatically mark that as complete. This is really great for drivers who are switching from one route to another. When they go in and they choose, say, work area 1, 2, 3, because that driver had to leave at 1 o'clock today, and they had 50 stops left. So they're going to go in there, and the only stops that are going to show as needing to be complete are the ones that haven't been completed yet. So there's no crossing it over and having to move stops from one person to the other. They can literally get into that manifest from where that other driver stopped. And they can work through it as they would like, as they usually do when they're on their own route. So there's no pesky circle and stops and moving here and doing it. They can just complete them there. There's none of that. That was how our eRoute was set up in the first place. And that's how it's still currently defaulted to. If you have situations where you want to configure it to where your drivers are not seeing other people's routes, we've had a lot of people reach out to us. They started using eRoute and they had the pesky situation where, a driver will start walking down there through all the trucks. They see everybody's trucks, and then they start looking through the routes and they see that they're heavier than Susie over there. And then they would get into an argument, and as you all are, I'm sure, are aware, know how that situation probably would go. We had a lot of people reach out to us and ask us to make it able to be assigned. There are multiple ways to assign this now. Like I said, this defaults to just everybody can see everything. So for those of you who don't have that culture issue where your drivers aren't, looking around at other people's stuff, that's great because leaving that open makes it easier on you so that they can switch back and forth between routes when you need them to. Doing this configuration here doesn't necessarily mean that you can't change it, by the way. It doesn't mean that you can't reassign them to another route on the fly. Totally can be done. It just means you're going to have to get into the system and reassign them. So we'll go through each of these and I'll explain that a little bit too. You can completely disable eRoute. We do have some companies, we do have some customers that just overall, they don't want their drivers to be able to use eRoute. So they'll turn it off. That is available to you. The second one is when they're in eRoute, the drivers can only retrieve the manifest by default work area. So under employees in the boss system and on the Optics app, when you go into your employees, you can set their default work area. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where that is. So let's see. Is it in here or is it in the? Thought it was in here. It might be under the. Let me go look. Oh, thanks. Could be under here. Use W. It looks like their default work area is only on the Optics app, which is something we'll be adding in here for the ability for you to make that change, okay? In the Optics app, when you get in there and you go under your drivers, the ability to assign them to a particular work area exists. That is because the Optics app is for like easy access. You can pull it up on your phone, you can pull it on your tablet, and you can very quickly, if you're having that issue, assign them the work area. The other one, eRoute drivers can only retrieve the manifest for the work area by scanner login. This would make it very easy for you to not have to assign the work area. What happens is they get into their scanner, they log in, they get into the driver app. They can only pull the work area that they're logged into on their scanner.
Hey, Mason.
That is something you can use as well. Yep.
Yeah, Mason, at the end, I can show, I've got a Optics app pulled up for somebody. I can show everybody how to get
Show you
into
where
it.
it is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we do that at the end. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So he's going to show us how you would, set the default work area. And like I said, very easy to change. Ken will show you how easy it is to change that. This one's a little harder to change. They would have to log out of that route and log into a new one on the scanner, which I'm sure is not ideal in the FedEx way. So this one would be a little harder to change. You'd have to come in here and change it to, a default work area and put it in a default route for them to be able to get changed over if you didn't want them to make that change in the scanner. The last one is the drivers can only retrieve the manifest for the work area that they are assigned to in the scheduler. This one is dependent upon whether or not you're using our scheduling system. So if you go into the scheduler, you go over here, he doesn't currently have, he has the vehicle in here, but he doesn't currently have the work areas assigned to them. But if you did go in here, there is a spot in here to put the work area. If there is a work area assigned here and you have that set to, they can only see the one that they've been assigned to, that's the only one they're going to be able to see. Again, you would have to then go in here and edit the particular, you go to by day and you would edit the day to change that and add the work area. And in this case, he does have the work area here. In some of those other ones, he didn't. But you would go in, you would edit, you would change that work area, click update, and it would let them see that new route. So this one's a little bit easier to change because you've already put the information into the scheduler. So this would be a way to change it. If you know that you're going to be changing if you know that there's going to be a lot of times you're going to be changing those work areas around that you've assigned to these drivers, I would go by the default work area. I would assign them all by a default work area because changing that is much easier than either of these two. Okay?
Yeah, but I think the next one, like I said, if they only can receive the manifest for what they've logged into the scanner, I really think that one, that way they're logged into that work area, they're going to get that work area.
Yeah, but I was just saying, if you know that you're going to be running into the issue of having to change the work areas in the middle of the day because your driver, you have that problem, doing this one would be a little bit easier to change midday than this one. But yeah, if you don't have that issue where everybody, once they're dispatched, you very, very rarely have the issue of having to switch work areas on them. The by scanner is by far the easiest because you're not doing any manually assigning the route, particularly to that driver, that work area to that driver. Do we have any questions about this configuration here? And like I said, you can unmute yourself and ask the question if you have it. And if you are not wanting to do that, you can also put it into the chat or the Q&A. We are good with all three of those options. Before we get Ken going on the optics app so he can show you where that is. And see the power. Oh.
Here we go, almost there. Okay, so this is a little bit of a new look optics app here. You might not have access to this. What you would see is this when you log on to your optics app. So then I'm going to click the hamburger here. I'm going to go to my drivers. And then I just click on a driver that I want to go to. And you can see right here the service area. So if you've got multiple CSA, you put your CSA in there and then the work area in there. Okay, so that's where you would do that and then make sure you hit save. Okay.
Yep. So it's just as easy as changing those numbers. We've had a lot of, we've had, ever since we put out the new eRoute version, we've had a lot of people ask for this particular functionality. So if you have questions about changing this, or you want it, if there's something else you'd like to see this do, please don't hesitate to let us know, because this entire route configuration came from customers and contractors asking for this functionality to exist. So obviously we take your opinions to heart. So if you have suggestions or questions about how this could be made a little bit easier for you and your company, we are all ears. Okay.
You can see you can change a lot of things here, the wages, how you pay per day, all of that. So all good in there. And then if we come back out here, you did see that this is in the test phase right now. If I want to see my daily service, basically, I know a lot of people look at the WS or the DSW all day long. Everything that you wanted to find out about the DSW is going to be on this screen right now. And it does default to this. So I can see, here's a driver. He's already done 104 of his 106 delivery stops, 2 of his 3 pickups. There's the packages, pickup packages, time definite stops, if they have any exceptions right there, how long they've been on the road, what their stops per hour are. And then you get the summary of your overall operation right here. So this is, like I said, it's in the test phase right now. Hopefully it will be released pretty quickly here. Andy, I don't mean to call you out, but if you're using the optics app currently in its current stage, would this be a nice upgrade for you?
It would be terrific. I was just unmuting to ask you a question too. So yes, as a team, we use that religiously, and this would be a huge upgrade. And we just have one question I think we've asked before. At the end of the day, or actually not the end of the day, but when the driver is finished, the
Yep.
only thing we didn't display in the past, and I was just wondering if that's going to happen in the future, is whatever they didn't complete. Because that was kind of a problem for us. We'd see Ken went out and did 100 stops, and that he missed or didn't do 20 stops or packages, whatever way you're going to look at it. That's the one missing view we have that we have to go to DSW to see.
Right. So right now the only way you might see that is if he was dispatched with, he only did 104 and you got end of day here, and he
Yeah.
was dispatched with 136. That
Yes.
means he left 32 stops. So I know we got to pull that from 2 different places, I would think. So it might be hard to incorporate, but it does make sense. Like you said,
No,
if
that's
somebody,
okay. That would give us what we need. That's
yeah,
okay. We don't do it today. So that was where we'd see delivered stops versus dispatch stops.
correct. Yep,
Got it.
delivered
That's
stop.
fine. That's
And
fine.
once it says end EOD appear,
Yes.
then you know that they're done.
This is great. This is terrific. Yes.
Okay. And then
Yes.
once again, I just click on the top one and go in. I can see what what they've done, what they got left,
Yes.
where they are.
Yes, no, we use it as a team. It's outstanding. That was the only little piece, but this is even a better view. So thank you guys for all the hard work. This is great.
Okay. This probably bumps up against
And
you.
I will say, Andy, yeah. I will say, Andy, too, if you guys use our timekeeper, there is one
Yes.
thing that's missing from this particular app at the moment because he doesn't use our timekeeper. Right there by their, like, where the information is, where their name and the route that they're on, it'll be a little
I
green,
can show it.
like teeny tiny little, okay, it's like a little teeny tiny little green clock that shows that they're clocked in, and it turns
Right.
to gray when they're clocked out. So that's another indicator that you
Okay.
can determine whether or not they're still on the road or not, or so they're still clocked in or clocked out. So that way, if you see something is not complete on there and you see gray, you know
Okay.
that's something they didn't complete.
Plus you guys
Okay.
do you guys also do pre and post trip inspections, right?
We do.
I'll show you this
And
too then.
we use the app for that as well.
Okay, so you'll be able to see this here. This won't take that long since he's only got 36 routes built. The other guys that I've been showing's got 90. So let this build here real quick.
And the big red square is now gone. It's at the bottom, just for anybody who's been using the optics app and had
The spinning logo.
big red box of death. Yeah.
Come on. Almost there.
Your internet's too cold, Ken.
Yeah, it's actually been decent here today.
Is that for me?
No, that was for me.
I know.
A Michigan fan calling me. I got to definitely hang up on that one. So you can see here, there's the green that they're clocked in. Pre-trip is done.
Ah, yes. Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay,
It
so
shows
these are
everything
all
that you need
additions.
right up front without clicking around.
Yep.
Yeah, that's terrific too.
So, yeah.
I-
So it'll
I-
ask if you want to see your daily service. If make sure you hit yes, and then that's there. If you want to see your overall, that's great there. But this daily service is the new upgrade.
And the exceptions are over to the right, correct?
Huh?
The exception.
Yeah, if you scroll up, Ken, they're up there. There's a guy that's got exceptions on up. Yep.
Yep.
The arm. Okay.
So I can click on that.
I think Becky had a question about exceptions that
Yep.
I'm not sure about.
There's the exceptions. There.
Uh-huh.
There's the address where that was the exception.
Got it.
We get tracking
It's
info.
required. Okay. Oh, not required. Okay.
That one shows is delivered. Okay.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any time commitments. So, boom.
Is this going to look similarly on the not the optics? I always call it the wrong thing on the desktop.
Yeah, Mason, are you involved with the development on moving the optics to the desktop?
Always involved in all of the software. Yeah, it's going to look very similar
Okay.
as this to the system in the boss system. We're trying to move it over there, but because we're going to have so much more screen real estate, we have all this room now for activities on the screen. So it's kind of trying to take something that's so small and put it onto a desktop is proving a little bit challenging, but now we have all this room to show you guys more stuff. So yes, it'll look very similar to the correct.
But most of this you have on the desktop. I mean, it's almost all there.
It's just not all aggregated. And this is actually directly from the FedEx API, and it's active data that's currently right now. The BOSS system is historical, so it shows you the historical information. It doesn't really show you, other than there's only one spot in there that shows you almost real time, which is the op metrics, which is a day behind.
That's what I meant.
Unless you're up at 11 o'clock at night. Unless you're up at 11 o'clock at night, then it's real time. But that's the only place that it's as soon as the next day. in the BOSS system. Once this is ported in there, you'll have the historical information and you'll have the 2 days information in the BOSS system in the same place.
Got it. Okay. So BOSS really not really great to use in effect today. We really want that tomorrow. Is that kind of fair to say in analysis?
Yeah, as far as the op metrics is concerned in the BOSS system, now if you are, it's really great, you know, obviously if you're using this to look at your daily information, yes, this is where you want to get your information. But if you're trying to plan for the next week or so, the BOSS system is where it's at. That's where all that historical, the good stuff is.
I mean, like tomorrow morning, want to talk to a team member or whoever doesn't look good in the numbers, that would be fine because it's after 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
It would be in the op metrics after 11 o'clock.
Okay, great.
And you can see here, I just hit the time commitments. So
Yes.
they're listed by work area and by service level. So in the order, he doesn't have any 1030s, but if he did 1030s, noons, then 1700s, all by work area.
Thank you. That's great.
All righty. You want me to send
You
this
got a
back
little
to you,
sneak peek
Mason?
into the new yeah, you got a little sneak peek into the new version there.
Yeah.
Right.
So this was just bonus, just because the three people here have been here many times. So you guys got a little bonus today. So back to you, Mason.
Okay. All right. Did anybody have any questions about eRoute? Do any of you need to, would you like to see eRoute? I know it's changed. We pulled it up probably a couple weeks ago, probably end of last year, and it's got some new features in it. So if you guys wanted to see that, as far as, you know, determining whether or not your drivers want to use this or not, I can bring that up as well. But did you have any other questions about the configuration here or anything else in the system while you've got our undivided attention? All right. Well, if you guys are all good to go, we will see you next week. Like I said, here's my contact info. For those of you who can make it next week, we would love to see you. For those of you who your BCs have not been able to make it, next week is a great one to attend because, like I said, it is a monthly recap. We're going to start doing these throughout the year. So if your BCs don't have necessarily that time to sit here, you know, every week, this monthly recap is great because any questions they have about those 3 things that we went over for the rest of the month, they can get in here, see what they need to see, and ask those questions. So that is what we are going over next week.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes. If we don't see you for the rest of the week, have a great and profitable weekend. Stay warm out there for those of you who are as freezing as we are. And we will hopefully see you all and talk to you all next week. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.